All right, so we're live. Let's get started. So super excited. I've got two guests today, two guys in Baltimore, Maryland that run real estate team there. This year they'll do over 500 transactions. So you definitely want to stick around and listen to what they have to say. It's Andrew Undem and Joe Sachetti. Like I said, they're out of Baltimore, Maryland. And guys, let me ask you a question. Are you prepared to share the good, the bad, and the ugly about your real estate business growth journey today?
I'm certainly prepared to share the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yep, we're in. We're in. Thanks, Lars.
Awesome. So guys, tell me a little bit about yourself personally. Business is quite personal, especially real estate. Our listeners want to get to know you so they can identify with your stories. Give us like each of you kind of take about 60 seconds to talk about yourself personally and how you got into real estate and how you came to be partners.
I'll jump in. The business for me started at a younger age, 24 years old. Been just jumping in full steam ahead. Full-time agent from the beginning about 19 years ago. What came from the corporate world where I had a quick taste of that coming out of college and just overall was not happy with the glass ceiling effect, working hard, getting a lot of accolades from my employers and superiors there in the corporate sector. Just didn't lead to immediate cash success that I was finding that was available in the real estate sector. So jumped into that, again, about 19 years ago, saw some good gains right away, and then got a real quick taste of the recession. Worked hard through that, rebuilt a bit of my branding, and started carrying a team throughout that process. Personally, I'm a father of two, happily married, living in downtown Baltimore, which is relevant in that that's where our offices are. That's where we sell the lion's share of our business. Really enjoying city life with the family, and pleased to be building a team here with Andrew Undem, whom I met about 5 or 6 years ago, coming out of a referral from a lead client of ours, a big builder client. Saw a lot in Andrew, of course, enough so to want to build a full-time team operation where I shared the branding with Andrew and thus began the Sure Sales Group, which is what we trade under here in Baltimore. Sure standing for Sachetti Undem Real Estate.
Awesome. Andrew, what's your quick story?
All right, Andrew Undem, 30 years old. As Joe mentioned, I met him about 6 years ago. I had a sales background with new home construction, got into real estate I guess 8 years ago, if you count my 3 years in new home sales, then going on year number 6 here with Joe, and just having a great time. Young father, so it's a balancing act. We're both still in production, so I'm sure we'll get into it, but it looks great on the outside a lot of times, but it's a lot of work going on in the background. My phone is never off, so my wife wants to blast me sometimes, but the money's good.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for the intro there. I want to kind of get the motivation ball rolling a little bit. Can you guys think of a success quote that might have served you as you've kind of been building your businesses? For me, it was Napoleon Hill with the mind of man can conceive and believe it can achieve. That was for 3 solid years. I just kept this is not rocket science. Building a real estate team is not rocket science. What are some success quotes that you guys have leaned on?
Joe, I got one. I'll give you a minute. One of my mentors, who's a sales consultant, kind of trainer, his name's Matthew Newberger, also out of Baltimore, told me one time, and I'm not sure if this is his quote, but this is where I heard it. He said, Andrew, you have to start having an unrealistic expectation about how good life can be. And it kind of was a paradigm shift. Who's to say you can't make 10x whatever that number is in your head? And I started believing it. And that's just it's kind of like what you said, Lars, whatever the mind can believe, it can achieve. Conceive, believe, achieve, I believe are the 3 words there.
Yeah.
It's so true. So that was big with me.
That's awesome. How about you, Joe?
I think what's really relevant to my business is a quote from Pele, the soccer player, which is ultimately success is no accident. And when I say it's relevant to my business, it really goes back to the beginning days of my career where I was just flying by the seat of my pants, thought as hard as I can hustle meant as much as I can earn. Stepping back and really getting into team construction, having a lot of accountability and obligations to the team has allowed me to really work by design. us, the no accident approach. Everything we're doing here is with purpose, and a lot of focus and strategizing goes into everything we do. And in turn, of course, the gains are there from a monetary standpoint, but more so just the structure and the safety net of having a system that keeps going is really able to be seen versus that fly by the seat of your pants approach that I was starting my career with.
Awesome. Yeah, as like 99% of real estate agents do.
Indeed.
So guys, tell me about when you came together, kind of describe that a little bit, but also what the last 5 or 6 years have looked like, how, you kind of brought your individual businesses together, what the backstage looked like. You mentioned you have 15 agents before we got on the call, 15 agents now, four staffers, or 4 W-2 employees. Kind of talk about the last 5 or 6 years. And maybe there are like phases of growth where it was just the two of us in an admin, we hustled. Then it was hire this, and then kind of take us through the growth and what were the challenges that you guys really went through over the last 5 or 6 years.
We both probably have some interesting perspectives on it. I mean, you want me to roll, Joe?
Yeah, tell them how ugly the operation was when you jumped in.
Well, so I get into the business, as Joe mentioned, a referral from a big builder, very respected builder in the Mid-Atlantic region. He says, you need to meet this guy, Joe Sachetti. And I had thoughts of joining another super big established team. And he goes, you need to meet this guy, Joe Sachetti. He's selling all of our houses by himself. He's double-ending these commissions. I think you'd hit it off. I meet Joe. We do hit it off. And we have a good yin and yang kind of vibe going on. Is like, I'm super techie. I'm always reading the blogs. Like, Lars, I've been following you for years. I know you don't know who I am, but I was like, Lars Hedenborg. So anyway, and then Joe's more of like, he was already a Hall of Fame producer for 15 years before he met me, putting up, millions of dollars in commissions, getting all the awards from RE/MAX. So we combine, and it was a slow rolling approach. Like you said, we did start with the one admin. One of the deals that I said, Joe, if I'm going to join your team, Joe was already thinking about getting an admin. I said, look, I need it. So I've read all the books. I had read $1 Million Real Estate Agent before while I was sitting in the new home sales model. I'm really trying to figure out how this is supposed to work before I jump my pretty good career. I jump out of that and into maybe you make money, maybe you don't. Let's burn the ships. And Joe agreed to do that. We hired an assistant, Tara, who's still with us today. She's getting married in a couple of weeks. She's an absolute rock star. I don't even know what it's like to sell real estate without an assistant. Joe does. And then slowly but surely we added agents, added systems, got into Boomtown, got into the Google Docs, got into the cloud. And I think, as we went from maybe between the two of us doing 70 deals, then 150, then 250, then 300, then last year we did 420, and we're on pace, knock on wood, to do 500. We've just grown a lot. And I will say Joe has slowed me down some, which has been a great service to me. Like, I want to do everything right now. Like, no, we need Boomtown and that and that and that. Run the credit cards, let's roll. And he's like, hey, dude, could you calm down for like a second and maybe just make sure your deal's closed so we can get paid? Okay, getting paid's good too. And vice versa, Joe's still printing out his contracts. So we don't get in this argument anymore because I just let him go. I'm like, dude, you're seriously printing it out? We got DocuSign, we got Dotloop, the team version, we got all the right stuff. He goes, dude, I'm printing it. So at some point, you just got to people, we're bros. So I'm not going to like yell at him anymore. And he's not going to be like, hey, it works for me. Okay, that's a good excuse. So we kind of have a lot of that, but it's all on the up and up.
Yeah. Awesome. Joe, how about you?
Ultimately, where I was based on hustle and reputation to getting the client service exactly where I thought it should be, which I still believe we provide a service package to our client that's at the very pinnacle of what, a client should expect. So I was taking that hustle, that grind, and making that my brand. And we needed to figure out a way to put that out there better. And Andrew, again, citing that yin and yang approach, it was just a lovely dynamic to go from like the old school world of just building referrals and that came from just one by one deals to putting us out there on the web and just building a lot of brand recognition. Really, really have to give a lot of that to Andrew. So where I was a strong reputation, but not knowing where I was next year kind of thing. Building the lead generation that was to follow after joining forces with Andrew has allowed for that brand to just resonate through the community and build a lot of new organic farms. It's been great. So, from a team build standpoint, now we take those, those like, roots of our program, and we transcend it into the new agents that we bring on every day. And we're really seeing some strong success. So that's now where my career personally is starting to really take shape, is with the team build and seeing individual agents on our team build their own brands and use us as a bit of a platform to just skyrocket their own personal growth. And but we're always just going back to the roots of what we are, which is customer service based, strong lead generation, and presentation of the brand at all times.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that. Why don't you guys tell me, I think something that's rarely talked about in, I think, just society in general, but specifically when it comes to real estate, and especially, high producers, you very rarely have them talking about their failures, right? The things that they've done wrong. I'd love to get from each of you a point in the journey, in the Sure journey, where you guys have joined forces, where bad decisions, something didn't go right, bad hires, overspending, losing money, whatever it might be. Give us some of the realness of building every real estate business growth. Anyone who's grown a real estate business has been through some failures. So what comes to mind when I say that for you guys?
I think Andrew mentioned ultimately like the bro card that we carry between ourselves, and that would be just like we're very just able to hash things out directly with one another. Now, there was a time when the two of us coming together as partners, and there's a lot of books out there that'll suggest partnership is not the way to go with team build. You'll see husband-wife teams that fail, and perhaps their marriages fail, but coming in with somebody from the public that you really don't have much intimacy factor with other than just business, and seeing how one another work, and then saying, this is how I want my brand to work, and this is how you want your brand to work, and then trying to marriage that's tough. We've had some serious blowouts, and that's where, I think our personalities can really get stuff out in the open quickly. And there's been moments where we're embarrassed about how that looks, but fortunately we do it behind closed doors. But there's been a lot of like breakdown to get to where we are right now, which is extremely harmonious, where we can trust one another, whether it be on the spend, whether it be on the decision-making, the discussions with individual team agents without one another there. There was a moment in the construction of the business where it was like, no, I need to be there with you. And I don't want to miss anything, because I don't want your opinion to be the only opinion. And just the building of trust in general has been a wonderful thing to see. But there was some absolute failure there in the beginning as to knowing how to set goals with one another. So what we did was we sought a coach to really bring us into alignment. And we worked extensively with the coaching system for maybe about, Andrew, 18 months at least, where it was just and personally coming up with one goal. Our agents on our team get to see one voice. It's been a good rebound from what could have been an absolute failure quickly into the operation.
Awesome. Andrew, how about you? What do you look back on as some failures?
Well, anytime you're going to go forward, you're going to have to slow down, and the old saying, one step back before you take two steps forward. So there's a lot of those little things along the way. We've always been luckily able to follow, Warren Buffett's famous line, rule number one, don't lose money. Rule number two, just follow rule number one. So Joe and I, luckily, and that's partly because him slowing me down on everything I want to buy, and then me bringing him up into, it's 2018. Back then it was 2012, getting the website, getting some lead generation going. But failures, I'd say, I think we could have probably grown a little bit quicker. And just if we were on the same page, there's a lot of things we waited a long time to do, just with simple tracking. And we're still not there. Like Lars, I know you from studying a bit of your stuff, like you track everything down to the per penny, what it costs to put the sign in. Like we're not super trackers, and we probably should be. And we're working on that. And that's led to some failures where I don't know the exact ROI of my Zillow versus my Facebook versus my Google. And that's kind of where my head's at a lot of times. I don't know that because we don't track it that well. Other things are holding agents accountable we hire good salespeople. And I think one of the reasons we're successful is because we know how to sell. And that doesn't get talked about enough either. You're a real estate salesperson, not a realtor. If the barrier to entry was any lower, you'd trip over it to become a realtor. And there's so many people with a job that probably shouldn't have one in this industry. Not on our team, because we actually hire talented salespeople. Not talent. We don't recruit talent, but just people who know how to sell. There's a big difference. You can be unbelievably talented, but not be a good salesperson. You're not going to make it as a salesperson in this industry. This is as competitive as it gets. It's kind of the wild, wild west out there. Everyone's gunning for the same buyers, same listings. So where we failed is holding these good salespeople accountable to what we know they should be doing. Because Joe and I are both in production. Maybe that's something we're still failing at now, is we're taking our own buyers, taking our own listings. We have big networks in Baltimore. We're both from here. So it's tough to hand that off. But I'm not sure if I can give you a direct one day where I was like, I said this or did this and it was an epic failure. I mean, there's 100 many of them, but they were all recoverable. And I think the big win was that we never gave up. There was times I'm sure Joe wanted to give up on this punk kid who's probably thinks he knows everything. Get him out of my face. I was fine before I met him. I'll be fine afterwards. And at the same time, I'm like, this old man's got an anchor around my neck. It's not letting me get boomtown. But we hashed it out and fought through it. So I'm not sure if that answered the question.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. And it transitions to what I want to talk about next. And I think it's along the lines, I think a lot of team leaders, they fail in the area of accountability, and it's like this icky thing that, even if you weren't in production, maybe it's just hard for you guys to hold other people accountable. And it's really, really common. But was there a point in the journey where something shifted along those lines, where it really came together, like a moment of truth, some sort of realization that you broke through, some kind of breakthrough? Can you think of any breakthroughs in the team building?
I think a lot of the growth in the beginning was held back perhaps of my fear of exposure. There's a lot that goes into building a team with one's personal identity at stake. Again, I built a strong reputation in a core nucleus. It's a large city and metropolitan that we sell in, the Baltimore, Washington metropolitan. But ultimately, as real estate agents, we always feel like everybody knows us and we're totally exposed. And to build that into a giant, team brand and have yourself as the leader of that brand, it's a lot of exposure. And getting over that has offered us so much, just different tiers of growth and happiness and a feeling of accomplishment. But to get to that point, for me anyway, was a very big struggle. I know Andrew just wants to launch, and the millennial mindset in general is just very capable of launching with an understanding and comfort of disposing whatever might be considered a failure. For me, it was just, oh my goodness, if we go big and launch in such capacity, then that just is available to be recognized as such a giant loss. And personally, that would, diminish my stake and my reputation. And how does that look? And oh goodness, I'm getting in the way of growth based on my concerns of what my personal stake is. That was a tremendous eye-opening experience, is just when you let that go and really just do what's good for the community, do what's good for the brand, do what's strong for your team agents, and get over the idea of exposure holding you back. Exposure is what we need and what we want to really get out there and build this company. And that's what it is a company at the end of the day, where we have W-2s that are depending on the company's revenue. We have sales agents that are dependent on the lead generation. If we weren't exposed to the general audience of consumers out there, we would never get the growth that we're getting. And again, I compliment my partner on that, of just letting it go and launching it. And we're going to take some bruises and just general remarks and critiques that are open to anything that's exposed, whether it be on the web or in print, et cetera. But that's part of it, is just getting through it and working hard and finding solutions wherever they can be found.
That is awesome. I mean, it's that shift from a production mindset to a business owner mindset. My pastor did a sermon called "You're Not That Important." And I'm quite sure it was about something totally different than the way that I took it at the time. But it was around the time I was making the shift from everything has to be me to I can't keep up this pace. I'm going to fail in my faith with my wife, with my kids, if I keep up this pace. And so I took that to mean that, I have a business partner as well. So there's a ton I would love to talk to you guys about the business partnership. And it's just like a marriage. It takes the same level of commitment to work through the ugly stuff and to realize that if it's important to you, it's important to me. And that shift to me has really served me in my partnership. And Andrew, I also want to understand from you. So when you call somebody old, what exactly is the definition? I'm not going to guess at Joe's age, although I know he wouldn't. I just celebrated birthday. So what's old? How old is Joe?
Well, Joe's 43. I'll just tell him that. He's in his 44th year of life, he'll say. His birthday was yesterday. I got it in my calendar. I'm a good friend. I know that type of stuff. I'm not sure if you can see it in this overcast. I got some white hair in here, so I'm not that young anymore. But I'm 30, going on 31. So we got, 12-year delta between the two of us, which is a good gap. Joe's still, he's learning how to work his iPhone. He's really coming along nicely. So I can throw his jabs at him too, but
I love it. Yeah, I'm in my 46th year of life.
You old timer.
Yeah, but I'm the old timer of the old wise one. Andrew, what about you? The shift, that transition, where you may have seen the world a little bit differently in the last 5 or 6 years. What comes to mind for you?
Well, Joe had mentioned we did agree to get some outside perspective. I was kind of like this kid who thought I knew everything, and looking back, thank God Joe had the patience to stick with me and grow together. Because if he didn't have the patience or just the overall lack of ego to join brands, it's not very often a guy who's been in the industry 12 years older, has a very successful career, is going to bring on a guy with almost no experience. I wasn't like an established realtor. I was with him for a year before we partnered up. So I was just thinking back to the failures of how I dismissed some things that I shouldn't have. But the big turning point was we get some outside perspective. And then I think this was rooted in the accountability factor, where we started having team meetings and we started acting like a sales organization should. So a big shift, Joe, you probably agree. Like, we say, look, every Tuesday we're having a meeting, 9:30. Only thing mandatory. Going back to what like Joe said, we're bros, we're good friends, we're pretty loosey-goosey around the office. Anything goes. There's nothing you can say that'll offend Joe or I. Like literally nothing in the office. Good or bad, there's pros and cons to anything. But we said, look, we're going to have a meeting and we're going to put the numbers on the board. So we track everything, like just the basic sales, not tactical lead generation stuff, but we know who's got the listings, who's got pending, what the closed volume is for the year, how many units people are doing. And we put that up in visual, the scoreboard, the sales board. Any sales organization, if you're not doing this, you should do it. That was a failure that we probably should have done that from day one. Because I know for a fact, a lot of these salespeople, when they're high D, high I, like Joe and I, sometimes it's more important than the money just to not put up a week where you didn't do anything. And it's not only that, we get camaraderie, right? So we start having the meetings. Furthermore, we start having one-on-ones with each agent after the meetings. That's where the accountability gets weird, because I don't like to be held accountable. Joe doesn't like to be held accountable. So we're probably not the best people to hold other people accountable. So we have inside our team, and there's been a couple different people in this role, where we call it a success manager. So it's not, hey, we're not here to like say, oh, you didn't do your homework and you're in trouble. It's more like, hey, dude, like, are you getting what you want out of this? Is there anything we can do to help? Do we need to set some time with Joe to make sure you're presenting this listing properly? Like, how do we serve you? And it really was like a servant mindset, and it still is to this day. And it sounds cliche, but Joe and I want to help people, but we want them to discover what they need help with, instead of us saying, well, you suck at that and that and that and that. Why don't you go work on that? It's just human beings, especially good salespeople that we have, don't respond well to that. So that was the shift, is organization, one-on-ones, servantly helping our team members achieve the level of success that they want, which, oh, by the way, it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
That was a big shift.
Yeah, really, really good. I want to dig a little bit into the current business. I think you mentioned shooting for 500 sides this year. What was the total volume on the 500 sides?
Well, Joe, is this right? I think our average sales price is right around $290. So call it $300 for easy math. Last year we did about
122.
Yeah, somewhere in the 120s.
Yeah.
So this year we're shooting for 500, and that should get us up to 150. halfway through the year, we're pacing it pretty well. I believe we have like just right around 200 closed with a big chunk pending. Joe's in Florida. I'm in Delaware, so I don't have my numbers in front of me, but current business is pretty sound. We have the ISA, listing coordinator, transaction coordinator, and one position we have that a lot of people don't have, that Joe and I both have taken full advantage of, is we have like a video marketing specialist where we're big on video. Talking about like the exposure. When Joe cut loose, Joe's in front of a camera just talking about his listings, blasting out content, as am I, all over the greater Baltimore area. So if you don't like constructive criticism or just straight up kind of mean feedback on Facebook, you're not going to like doing that very much. And you know very well, like, you know, your good friends are going to call you a douchebag too.
Of course.
Like, hey, nice tie, you know, that kind of stuff. But so we have that position, and that's helped us just put ourselves out there. And you can't track that. Like, Lars, you might not like this enough because you can't track it in your spreadsheet perfectly. But I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that those 28,000 views on this row home in a cool neighborhood in Baltimore, I'm not sure how many leads I got, and I pixel it. I know how to do the basics things. But people saw it, and they think of real estate, they think of me, or they think of Joe, or they think of someone on our team. And that's really important. And every coach preaches it. And everyone's got one of these. It's got a great camera on it. Spend some time and get comfortable in front of the camera, because that's what you look like and that's what you sound like. And I think people will respect it at the end of the day. Maybe you get some haters first, but the haters turn into people end up copycatting you and respecting it. We've seen a lot of that too.
Yeah, and I believe if you're not taking that approach in your business, I mean, this was like 5 years ago, you should have been thinking this way. If you're not really settling into video as a major piece of your business, you're not going to be doing a lot of deals 2 to 3 to 5 years from now, and doing story and bringing your clients in as heroes, and all of that stuff is just super powerful. And it's true, like that is how you sound and that is how you look, you know, so just get over it. It's funny you mentioned, I do a guys trip with my college buddies every year, and I get so much crap once a year from these guys. Like, yep, I got your latest video. Like, you send me 3 a week. You look like an idiot on that one too. I'm like, okay, well, you know, you keep saying what you want to say. You know, I'm just going to keep doing my thing and spreading the good news. So.
Well, Joe's got a real thick Baltimore accent. Joe, if you can give us a couple of them, come on, Hoyne, down here, down Federal Hill, I get you water there. And I got friends, like my family's from Minnesota, so they sound like, oh, sure, geez, Andrew, you know, you sound a little different there, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
talk a little bit about lead sources. Everyone wants to know about profitable lead sources, but also like what have been some unprofitable lead sources?
Oh boy, unprofitable. We can make a whole segment on that. What did we do years ago, Andrew? There's some guy that called me up, wanted to
blue blocks,
and you'd send out like these blue blocks that would pop up on the screen, and they would say my name on it and call this number. Just horrible ideas that were thrown at us as they came in. We would just pull the credit card out, and that's probably a failure piece as well, is just buy everything and not have a focus of staying lean. But where our lead generation is working strongly, certainly video, as Andrew mentioned. We've been heavy in Zillow. Again, just sticking on reputation in general of being the guys and women that are out there grinding throughout the weekend. You know, we have a tremendous presence of the open house community that goes on every weekend in every district that we sell in. So there's not going to be a chance, period, that you won't see our signs on the streets Saturday and Sunday, identifying that, again, we're having a sure open house. I stick with the open house standpoint as being a major driver for us, because we do generate so much traffic that our agents who are presenting themselves as professional and know the product, know the market, have a brand behind them, are winning leads over and over again. We had an agent on the team the other day that mentioned, you know, this team being on it will produce at least one ISA for you a month, one open house opportunity a month. You know, that in itself is so big for an agent on the team to know that they can come to work and see at least 2 solid leads that they're going to get to close a month working with us. But then obviously Andrew takes it to a next step with getting on the web and controlling our social media at a level that I believe is certainly leader status in the country with real estate teams. So we've done well there as well. But getting out and meeting our consumers and the public has been something that we've done very well at. And then, of course, our referral pool is giant and growing because our agents are strong and they know how to sell real estate. We as team leaders aspire to be leading from the front, not the rear. We have a lot of team leaders in our industry, and God bless anyone that's doing something right. And something right is where you're able to have good, strong team retention while building your business. But for us, it just doesn't work from the rear. Like we've recruited some team agents who came from other teams, and they said they were working for collectors. We don't really look at it as our team agents as working for us. For one, we work with them; they're our sales partners. But we expect the same that they should expect from us. So getting out on the streets and meeting people is certainly the name of the game with selling real estate. And our guys and gals are doing it and doing it well.
Yeah. Andrew, anything come to mind with lead sources, failures, and successes?
Well, on the lead source thing, we do track that pretty well because we do enjoy Boomtown and we put everything into Boomtown. So source-wise, I think we get around, on average, around 600 leads a month. A lot of those are Facebook, Google AdWords, direct, like just Google Juice, because we have a really good blog. If you follow us on Facebook, if you go to Sure Sales Group on Facebook, we'll come up. We're posting videos every day, kind of some compelling content. Back on our site, like we host shows, and we're constantly putting out video content. So our native clicks in like the Google Juice is pretty strong. Just if you're like typing Baltimore real estate, we got a good shot at coming up. And then Zillow's been very profitable. I know people go back and forth on hating on Zillow. Some people love it. Some people hate it. I just think that's a lot of buyers go there. So that's always going to be good. But if you look at the numbers, and this is true across every agent on our team, the most business comes from the people you already know, people who know you, like you, trust you. So what's really important for any agent to develop the skill of putting yourself out there in a non-douche way. Better off working with me than someone else because I'm going to get the job done. I care more about you as a client than I do about my commission check, which all of our agents know to do because that's what Joe has instilled on everyone, including myself from the get-go. Take care of the business on your desk today. There'll always be more. And that's a quote from Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's partner. And it's so true. So I think the big thing is everyone likes to talk about lead generation and Zerple and this and that. And there's a million ways to get leads, but nothing's better than someone coming to you instead of you having to pound the phone and go after someone else. So I think a failure would be, I spend so much time trying to figure out the next best thing. How do I get my links all tracking right and get all this stuff perfect? And how do I blast this just perfectly on a Facebook dark post versus the fastball down the middle boosted post, when really what would have a better ROI is simply calling all my past clients, educating them a little bit. Baltimore City just decreased their property taxes. That came out a couple of days ago. It's a win. Things like that, I think, matter more for the long-term healthier business, because that lead that you're getting on Facebook, well, 10 other agents got it. They're not going to treat you the same as someone you know is going to treat you. And Joe was I forget what the chairman's club, like almost like one of the top awards you can get from RE/MAX for like decades straight, didn't even have a website.
Yeah.
So it's important to be a good realtor, for one, be a good salesperson, for two, and then if you want to get into the business building thing, you're going to have some waterfall effect of some filling up the cup till it overflows so the leads can go down. But that's third tier.
Yeah.
Be a good realtor first, know how to do a contract, then maybe learn how to sell a little bit. And then if you can get to that lead generation, they're all good. If you treat people like human beings, all of these leads are good. It's all about finding out what they want and giving them exactly what they want in the way they want it, with the modality they want it, text, email, whatever.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, everything, we could have gone into a 2-hour training on the last 2 minutes that you just talked about. It's, and I fell into that trap when I was building, I did in 10 years, I did about 2,200 sides, and it was heavy lead gen, heavy mass media, really profitable. I've always been a really good tracker, but I didn't really, it was a treadmill, like get this client off the treadmill so I could fit another one on. And I missed not only just appreciating the journey more, But I miss the opportunity to really slow down and serve people at a high level, like just human being to human being. And in all of that is like, how much other business did I give up? Have you guys ever heard of Joe Girard's Law of 250?
No.
It's everyone that listens to this, just Google Joe. I think it's Joe. Joe Girard's Law of 250. Basically, the world's greatest salesperson. The guy sold cars, and he sold some unbelievable amount of cars. Just a single dude, not a dealer, owner, or anything like that. And he basically just realized that everyone. He went to a funeral and then another funeral, and then he got with the funeral director, and he basically about 250 people show up at funerals on average. And it was clicked to him to say, if I do a really good job of like over the top caring for this person and loving them, it doesn't matter what he would sell. It could have been vacuums. It could have been homes. It was cars. They know 250 people that are going to take time out of their schedule to go, appreciate this person when they pass. And that's how he built his business. And he had handwritten notes, old school. He did calls. And I think team builders, team leaders, they're just like on the crack of Zillow and, more pay-per-click. And then you forget that you're not even converting the leads and you're buying more leads. And, so it just gets out of control. But that's really amazing, and then just doing the video because the people that know, like, and trust you need the information that you're giving them, not just doing some crap piece of content, like a lot of agents do, but really, it's breaking news that your taxes were lowered in your city. You're compelled as community leaders to share that information to your sphere. So really, I think that was awesome. So I appreciate that. All right. We've got about 10 minutes here. I want to get into, I'm just going to fire questions at you guys. And I want you to each answer. This is like a rapid fire end the segment here. And I'm going to let's do a specific order so you guys won't have, so Joe, you're going to answer each question first and then Andrew. Number one is, what keeps you up at night when it comes to your business?
What keeps me up at night with my business, it's gone to a point now where it's the team members building their book. So I'm involved with as many files as I can be, literally being involved with them as they come in. It's a taxing process, but all I really want is for these agents to just pop and go big. So we have so many agents now that are really getting to like $20 million a year producers, and that's been a giant reward. Obviously, building a team, it's a reward when your team splits come to you, but just seeing growth from the individual producer that they have become has been huge. So not only does it just keep me up at night with excitement and worry sometimes as their files go awry, but it's keeping me up literally with working with them on their files. So I think they take a lot of pleasure in that. Certainly they're owed that. If I'm on a team and I'm giving a split to a team lead, I want to be able to take advantage of as many systems as possible. One of the things that we introduce recruits to when we're talking to them is, you do get me, you do get Andrew. That's apparently eye-opening for a lot of people that are recruiting elsewhere, where they're speaking to team leads or CEOs, whatever the terminology is out there. But they're taking that stance of like, hey, there's 6 tiers to get to me. You shouldn't have to bring that to me. And that, again, if that's working for that team lead, so be it. But what keeps us up late is working on all the files. We are doing a tremendous amount of book, relatively speaking, and I'm involved with as many files as I can get my hands on with these guys.
Awesome. Andrew, how about you?
And maybe I should admit to Joe here publicly. A lot of times I'll get a tough question. I'll say, you should call Joe.
Yeah, there it is.
10:30, I got a baby. I guarantee you Joe will take the call if you just call him right now. He'll answer.
He's like, I'm golfing right now. Joe's not. Call him.
No, you probably, Andrew, you probably have on your voicemail, if you're an agent on the Sure team,
yeah.
Go ahead and dial.
No, I definitely don't do that. I don't like those.
Yeah.
My voicemail says, leave a message and I'll call you back probably today. Yeah. People make fun of me for that too. I've kept that the same for a long time. What keeps me up is like, I'm a self-help junkie. Like I know a lot of realtors are, that personal development stuff. So I'm like watching podcasts like this, listening to podcasts like this. And sometimes I'll catch myself, like, I can't slow my brain down. Like, oh, I need to do this and I should do that. Oh, and next time I'm going to say it like this. Like, oh, and like replaying the listing presentations in your head, say, I definitely could have got 6% on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't have negotiated against myself like an idiot and cost myself 1.5% of X. So that's kind of what keeps me up. I'm always trying to think of the next best thing.
Yeah. Awesome. What were you guys most afraid of when you started building the team?
I mentioned earlier the exposure card for me was relevant in that I was obviously afraid of failure. So failure would be linked to me personally and what that would look like to the community around me that I had built such a strong reputation on. Like building a team means that there's a possibility of it falling apart, like anything you build. So that was a giant hurdle that was in the way, where it was keeping me as 100 to 150 unit a year guy to now where we're going, trying to get up to the 1,000 mark here in the next few years.
Awesome. Andrew, how about you?
Like the fear-based stuff is always, you don't want to fail. There's a good and bad to that. The fear of failure, say, don't have the fear of failure. You have to be willing to fail. It's okay to be afraid to fail, but you just have to be willing to crash and burn. So I was always willing to crash and burn, but what I was definitely afraid of is I don't want to have to go back. Like I worked at a big national builder. I said, I'm leaving. I'm planting my flag in the ground. I'm going to be good at this. And that would have been, I just wouldn't have let it happen. But especially early on, there was that fear like, hey, I just bought a house. No bank would give me a loan now. I make zero money. But thank God I have the righteous Joe Sachetti who showed me the way. So I made it through that. So now what I'm fearful now growing the team is like, how big do we want to get this? Like we want to get to 1,000 units a year. And we're going to need more people. We're going to need more systems, need more overhead. We don't know what the economy is doing. Trump's in North Korea. Like and I have a daughter. Joe's got 2 kids in private school, for crying out loud. So there's real adult fears now instead of like my ego fear. Like, I said I was going to do this. I hope I don't have to go back. Well, no one cares about that anymore. I want to be safe.
Yeah, that's awesome. What was the best advice you guys ever received about business?
My father told me during the recession, there'll always be people that want to buy houses. Certainly didn't feel like that, but again, I think it goes back to brand recognition now, where people that are buying and selling homes think of our brand, and it's working out. And people will always be buying and selling homes. The segue from there is you need to be the person that's answering the phone and replying to emails. So too often as salespeople, we have this freedom card that gets in the way, right? Where it's like I can get back to whomever I want, whenever I want. But ultimately, the experience is real of accountability. So, get back to those leads. You're accountable to do so. It's your livelihood. So that was a very strong, just resonates in my head. Somebody's out there buying a home today. Let's be the person that they work with.
Yeah. Andrew, how about you? Best advice?
Advice. I mean, it's going to go way back. Joe mentioned his father too. Like my dad's been talking about self-discipline since I can remember. And I have a bunch of siblings, but self-discipline's directly correlated with everything in your life. So something Joe always says is how you do anything is how you do everything. And accountability, it all comes down to, can you control yourself? Like, are you going to wake up when I talk to the boss in the morning? I don't have to put my pants on. I might not be wearing pants right now. I'm at the beach. You don't even know. But every day, like, so the big thing is you have to discipline yourself. If you're not willing to discipline yourself, any market you're competing in will discipline you for you.
Yeah.
So either take it on yourself, or it's going to happen. Things are going to happen to you and not for you.
Yeah.
So, and the Jim Rohn quote there too, and it's all intertwined. All this stuff, this personal development comes down to work harder on yourself than you do if you work harder on yourself than you do on your job, you'll go from making a living to making a fortune. That means have the self-discipline to wake up early, eat right, be courteous, all the basic stuff that no one does, brush your teeth, all that little stuff's discipline. If how you do anything is how you do everything, well, you'll treat business like that too.
Yeah. Or the quote, there's like 100 versions of it, but if you're hard on yourself, life will be easy. And if you're easy on yourself, life will be hard. I mean, and it is true. Nobody that joins our team wants to hear that. I told the guy second day, I go into the office Tuesdays and Thursdays. He started on Monday. It's like, hey, whatever we were saying is like, do you have any advice for him? Like, give us 7 years, which is the exact opposite of what he wants to hear. I'm like, give us 7 years and you'll be tripling the income of any of your friends and you'll have a life by design. And I said, man, Sharif, my fear is that you won't, you know, and I've just challenged him a little bit, but I think people are looking for just the instant gratification. And I'm like,
Sure.
give us a year to teach you how to just talk to expireds and FSBOs, you know, and then give us a whole nother year to work like yard sign calls and internet leads. And then year 3, we'll let you work with a buyer out in the field. And it's like, of course, now he's like, you know, four months in, and he, you know, wants to be a buyer's agent, you know, so it's just completely against everything I told him. So,
See, we're the opposite, Lars. We got a new agent on the team, can sell, doesn't know anything about real estate. We're like, here's a fresh buyer. Go ahead, buddy.
yeah.
Let it rip. You're going to fail. But that's fine. But you learn so much faster when your feet are in the fire.
For
Yeah,
sure.
I think we're a little different. I know a lot of people are like, oh, don't practice on a paycheck. Well, you know what? We got 600 leads. Let it rip, buddy.
Yeah, for sure.
And everyone's a lot cooler when they start making money, right, Joe? That's another thing Joe taught me. You're way cooler when you make money, okay? So go out there and close that deal. Or don't, and come back and say you didn't.
Yep. Awesome. Guys, this has been really, really awesome. I know what we've shared today and what you guys have been open about, I think is going to help a lot of people. So I truly appreciate your time, taking time out of your personal lives. I mean, that means a lot to me that you guys are willing to do that, and it's going to touch a lot of people. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Lars. It's great
guys.
things that you're doing in the industry. So thanks for having us.
Yeah, for sure. And if you guys ever need anything at all, reach out to me, and I'll be happy to give you any advice I could possibly give you guys. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Likewise. Take care.
All right. Be good, guys.